Hi everyone, I am here with a true story for you. And this one has traditional song, all night, all day. All night, all day, angels watching over my Lord. All night, all day, angels watching over me, my Lord. That is the thing that's before this story. And this little story, this true story, is called The Vanishing Lifeguard. Okay, so let's get into this one. Like many parents, Carla Rizzuto often asks her children's guardian angels to protect them in a general way, but twice she has received very specific answers. When Paul was about 4, a pediatric cardiologist discovered a hole in his heart. On rare occasions, a hole closes by itself, the doctor told Carla. But such a thing would take years, and Paul will need surgery soon. His 2 partners looked at the tests and concurred. Carla went home to pray. She asked God to put Paul's angel in charge of the situation and to keep her little boy healthy. 5 months later, as Paul's tests were repeated in preparation for surgery, the doctor was startled to see a perfect heart. "We just don't have an answer," he told Carla. Carla smiled at him. "I do," she said. 3 years later, the Rizzutos visited Disney World's water park in Florida. They were having a wonderful time. All afternoon they had climbed to the top of the water chute and plummeted down into the lake in their rafts. Carla and her husband Andy always went before Paul. The lake was deep at the end of the slide, and since Paul couldn't swim, they wanted to be ahead of him in case he fell out of the inner tube. At one point, Carla pushed off with Paul behind, but as they sped into a wider lane, she was astonished to see him tear by, revolving wildly. His raft had caught a groove and was out of control. Paul looked tiny and terrified. "Paul, hang on to the handles," Carla called as she tried to reach him, but her tube was spinning too, and she lost sight of him for a few seconds. As she shot toward the lake, her heart almost stopped. Paul's empty raft was bobbing nearby, but there was no sign of her son. "Paul!" Carla cried. Quickly she dove. The water was just a bit over her head, not terribly deep, but murky. She couldn't see Paul. She surfaced for a moment, frantically searching the area around her. Where was he? Just then she felt something hit her leg. Again she went under. "Paul!" She gripped him tightly, but as she tried to pull him up to the surface, he started to struggle. "He was panicking and dragging me down," Carla says. "I didn't know if anyone had seen us, and I was scared as he was." She wouldn't let go of Paul, but Carla's lungs were ready to burst. She couldn't stay under and hold him much longer. Suddenly she felt a pair of strong hands grip her waist from under the water and push her up. Still clinging to Paul, she broke through the surface, safe. Who had grabbed her? She looked into the calm, serene face of a man treading water. He was young, with curly brown hair, probably the lifeguard. "Oh, thank you." But as Carla turned to Paul, she saw that the lifeguard was on the pier and had just thrown a life preserver to her son. Confused, she looked back. The rescuer wasn't there. Where did he go? Confused, Carla scanned the shore, but no one was swimming back. There was no man near the pier where the lifeguard stood watching. No one at all who looked anything like their rescuer. "Who, Mommy?" Paul said quickly, reviving. By now Andy had come down the chute and was bobbing toward them on his raft. "The man, honey. The one who pushed us out of the water just now." Paul frowned. "I didn't see any man," he said. Paul and Andy went over to the pier. Carla slowly made her way to shore, then sat for a while. Her emotions were in turmoil. The more she thought about the near miss, the more frightened she was. Yet underlying her anxiety was a sense of tranquility, almost giddiness, a feeling she wanted to savor and enjoy. She stared at the water. Who had the man been? Why hadn't he stayed nearby so she could thank him properly? And there was something else odd about the incident, something Carla couldn't quite identify. Of course, she sat bolt upright. The man had been submerged for Carla and had felt his hands pushing her from underneath. But when she had looked into his face, his curly brown hair had been completely dry. God has always taken care of us, Carla says, and the best gift he's given me is my faith in him, the faith to keep asking and keep looking each day for the blessing he sends. Amen. Once again, I say God sent an angel. Those tunnels like that with those tubes that you sit on and go through them, hate those. It wasn't Disney World, but when I was a kid, Dad would usually take us to Long's Retreat every year during the summer when we was off school. And they had bunches of water you can play in, and one of those slides where they put you in these tunnels and set you on one of those inner tube things and you go through the water. And I couldn't swim, and I was terrified of those. Went through the tunnels, went down in there, and I was drowning in the water. I was throwing up water and everything. It was horrible. It reminded me of that. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that story, The Vanishing Lifeguard. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Good night, guys.